Meghan slipped into the sunlit terrace, her bare feet silent against the stone floor. Harry sat at the edge of the pool, his sleeves rolled up, his tie loosened. He grinned when he saw her. "About time," he murmured, his eyes tracing her curves as she crossed the distance between them. She paused, deliberately letting his gaze linger. "Did you miss me?" she teased, her voice low and sultry. His answer was a smirk. "I was wondering how long you'd make me wait." She leaned down, her lips brushing his ear. "And what if I keep you waiting longer?" He groaned, wrapping an arm around her waist, pulling her close. "You know I hate waiting." "Well then," she said, her breath hot against his neck, "you'll just have to behave tonight." Harry's laugh was deep and husky. "You know I don't like behaving," he whispered. In fact, he trailed his hand along her spine, his fingers teasing. "I have a few requests for tonight." Meghan straightened, arching an eyebrow. "Requests?" "Demands, really," he said, his tone playfully serious. "First, you're not allowed to wear anything too sensible to dinner." She laughed softly. "Oh, you think you can control what I wear?" "Of course," he said, standing and pulling her flush against him. "And second," his lips brushed hers, teasing, lingering, "you're going to let me choose dessert tonight." She bit her lower lip, her cheeks flushing with heat. "Is that so?" His voice dropped to a low, velvety rumble. "Oh yes. I've been thinking about it all day." The air between them shimmered with tension. Meghan tried to maintain her composure, but his words and touch sent shivers through her. "You're incorrigible," she whispered. He grinned. "And you love it." That night, after dinner, Harry's demands became clear. As they slipped into the privacy of their suite, he closed the door behind them, his eyes glinting with mischief. "Remember what I said about dessert?" he murmured, his hands at her waist. Meghan turned, pressing herself against him. "You've been teasing me all day." "Now it's my turn," he said, lifting her effortlessly into his arms. She laughed, breathless, as he carried her to the bed, laying her down with a gentleness that contrasted with the heat in his eyes. He leaned over her, his lips ghosting over her jaw. "I want you, every part of you, tonight. No interruptions. No distractions." Her pulse raced as he claimed her mouth with a kiss that was both demanding and tender. She melted into him, surrendering to the desire that sparked between them. Later, as they lay tangled in silk sheets, Meghan traced lazy circles on his chest. "You always get your way, don't you?" she whispered. Harry smiled, his voice husky. "Only when it comes to you." She laughed softly, her heart full. "You're impossible." "Yet you wouldn't have me any other way," he murmured, drawing her closer. And she couldn't argue. For all his playful demands and teasing, for all his charm and stubbornness, she wouldn't trade a moment of their fiery, complicated, passionate love. Together, they were unstoppable, a force of nature driven by desire, mischief, and a bond that only deepened with each passing day. Meghan woke the next morning to the soft golden light filtering through the curtains. Harry lay beside her, his arm lazily draped over her waist, his chest rising and falling in a slow, contented rhythm. For a moment, she watched him, memorizing the lines of his jaw, the faint smile still playing on his lips. The night's passion lingered in the air, a heady mix of whispered confessions and unspoken promises. Carefully, she slipped out of bed, padding across the room to pull on one of his shirts. The fabric was soft against her skin, the scent of him clinging to it. She smiled to herself, recalling his playful demands from the night before, the way he had teased her, coaxed her, driven her wild until she had no choice but to surrender. His mischief was endless, his need for her insatiable, and yet he always made sure to leave her breathless with laughter as well as longing. As she stood at the window, gazing out at the gardens below, she felt his arms wrap around her from behind. "And where do you think you're sneaking off to, Mrs. Naughty?" he murmured against her neck, his voice thick with sleep and desire. "I was just enjoying the view," she replied, leaning back into his embrace. His hands roamed lower, tracing the curve of her hips. "I have a better view right here," he whispered, his lips brushing her ear. She shivered, pressing closer to him. In fact, he continued, his tone turning playfully demanding, I think we need a private breakfast in bed. But you're in charge of the menu. She turned in his arms, her brows raised. Oh, really? He grinned, tilting his head. Yes. And I have a few requests. Her laughter bubbled up, but his smoldering gaze told her he wasn't entirely joking. He backed her toward the bed, his hands never leaving her. First, I want to see you wearing nothing but this shirt, he murmured, tugging lightly at the hem. Second, I want fresh strawberries and cream brought up. And third, he paused, his lips brushing hers. I want to feed them to you, slowly, deliberately, while you tell me exactly what you plan to do to me tonight. Her breath hitched, her pulse quickening. And what if I have my own list of demands? She challenged, her hands sliding up his chest. I'm listening, he said with a grin, his voice low and rough. She pushed him gently onto the bed, straddling his lap. First, you'll be the one serving breakfast, and you'll make sure it's exactly how I like it. Second, you'll kiss me here, she said, guiding his mouth to the sensitive spot just below her ear. And here, she whispered, tracing a line along her collarbone. And third, she leaned in, her lips brushing his. You'll spend the entire day doing whatever I say, without question. Harry's eyes darkened, his pulse racing beneath her hands. That sounds like a challenge I'm more than willing to accept, he murmured, pulling her down into a deep, searing kiss. The morning passed in a haze of laughter, stolen kisses, and playful banter. By the time the tray of strawberries and cream arrived, they were tangled in the sheets, breathless and flushed. Harry fed her each berry with exaggerated slowness, the tip of his tongue flicking against her lips to catch the juice. Meghan's soft moans filled the room, her hands roaming his body as his own demands became more urgent, more insistent. As the afternoon light faded into evening, they sprawled across the bed, sated and content. But Harry's mischief was far from over. He pulled her close, his voice a low rumble. You know, I think I still have one more demand, he whispered. She raised an eyebrow. Oh, and what's that? I want you to dance for me, he said, his grin wicked. Right here, right now. Just for me. Meghan laughed, her cheeks flushed. You're impossible. Please, he drawled, his voice dripping with charm. For me? With a dramatic sigh, she rose, letting the oversized shirt slip from her shoulders to pool at her feet. As the music from Harry's phone filled the room, she swayed her hips, her movements slow and deliberate, her eyes locked on his. His gaze darkened, his hands tightening into fists against the mattress. She danced for him, playful and teasing, her laughter mingling with the sultry beat. When she finally sauntered back to the bed, Harry pulled her down with a growl of appreciation, his hands roaming hungrily over her skin. Their mouths met in a clash of need and desire, their bodies tangling once more in a feverish embrace. As night fell and the stars appeared overhead, they lay entwined beneath the covers, their hearts racing, their breaths mingling. Harry pressed a kiss to her forehead, his voice rough with emotion. You drive me crazy, you know that? Meghan smiled, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on his chest. And you love it. He chuckled softly. I do. I love everything about you, your spirit, your fire, your stubbornness. You're my everything. And you're mine, she whispered, her lips brushing his. Always. In that moment, as their bodies pressed close and the world outside faded away, they knew that their love, fierce, passionate, and unbreakable, was the only demand that truly mattered.